Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Deve Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paskatani Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Hare Ram Hare Ram. Thank you very much for inviting me to Iskcon Mombasa. My privilege to be here. I've heard so much about it. And of course, Prabhupada was here 3 times. Twice, maybe. 2 times. Yes, 2 times. In Nairobi, 3 times. You know, I've followed Prabhupada's life, of course. We've made many films on his life. Well, 2 films, actually. But he gave us the instruction to make films in 1974. Actually, in 1970, we were serving, my wife and I, Vishaka Devi, we were serving the Juhu project for 2.5 years. We had come to India. I was doing a master's thesis in photography. And I decided to do my master's thesis on the Hare Krishna movement. And because that was my first professional assignment as a photographer, to cover the Hare Krishna movement. Temple in New York. That was the summer of 1970. I wasn't looking for religion, but religion found me. And I was very attracted right from the beginning. My girlfriend, Jean, she was not attracted. She wrote the article for the magazine. She was an atheist. Of course, today she's my wife, Vishaka Devi. So from atheist to theist to the president of Bhaktivedanta Manor. That's Prabhupada's magic. Sometimes in India, people would ask, can you show me some magic, Prabhupada? Prabhupada just indicated his devotees, this is my magic. Actually, to change someone's consciousness, that's your magic. If he produced some gold or dust, there's so much gold or dust. What does he use? Oh. But to change someone's consciousness where they can actually be beneficial to human society, that's real contribution. Prabhupada so many times talked against these so-called gods. People are saying they're God. But actually, if you spell God backwards, that means dog. So if they claim that they're God, they're dog. Prabhupada was very bold. He didn't mince words, you can say. So he gave us, we were called from our Juhu service back then in 1971-72. Juhu was very primitive, actually. Nothing around. There was the Juhu scheme where quite a few movie stars lived, but that was some distance away. But there was no temple, a very small temple at that time. We used to go see Mr. Nair and try to work things out, try to figure out a solution. Of course, he wouldn't cooperate. Prabhupada had to deal with him personally. You don't try to cheat a Vaishnava, especially a Mahabhagavad. That's dangerous. And we saw that with Mr. Nair. So anyway, one day we got a letter in Juhu from Karanda Prabhu. He wanted us to do a movie on Iskcon. There were no movies at that time. So Prabhupada liked the idea. He actually funded that first film. He was our executive producer. Executive producer is usually the person who supplies the money. So Prabhupada gave money from his book fund, normally to print books and establish temples. So from that we can understand that Prabhupada understood the value of media, the value of films. Because today, of course, back then people were mad after films, they're even more mad after films today. And in fact, they're not so inclined for reading. So anyway, we produced that first film in 1974. And Prabhupada asked us to make more films, make them the most popular films, distribute them widely. So we've tried to do that over the years. And the recent film was Hare Krishna, the mantra, the movement, and the Swami. We started it all. We're showing that film tonight. Maybe everyone knows. And Prabhupada's life story is simply amazing. We're talking today about how Prabhupada did so much in such a short time. Actually, whatever the pure devotee desires, Krishna will help him. That's why Prabhupada could be so successful so quickly. He had Krishna's backing and help. I remember the story when he was coming from Australia, and he was stopping 45 minutes or an hour over in Fiji at the airport and flying on to Hawaii. So that 45 minutes stopover, quite a few Indian people came and met Prabhupada, greeted him. There's one Vasudeva Prabhu. So he met Prabhupada. Prabhupada asked him, "Do you have a temple here, Radha Krishna temple?" And Vasudeva Prabhu said, "No." Prabhupada said, "Well, please start one." And then Prabhupada touched him on the head, gave him blessings, and he felt completely empowered immediately to do that. Because today there's a wonderful Krishna Kaliya temple in Fiji. Has anyone been there? Yeah. So, yeah, Prabhupada's achievements are remarkable. Actually, even a materialist has no interest in spiritual life. He can learn a lot of lessons from Prabhupada's life. Perseverance, determination, enthusiasm, patience, never giving up, complete faith. These are all necessary offer for material success, aren't they? Yeah? So we can all learn from Prabhupada's life in so many ways. What to speak of everything he's given us, the philosophy, the lifestyle. I was asked this morning Shyam Prabhu, what was it? What quality? You asked what quality in Prabhupada?
Yeah, what did you find amazing?
What did I find amazing about Prabhupada? Well, I first met Prabhupada through his potency, his temples, his devotees, his program, the philosophy. That was when I did that article. And then later on I went to India to meet Prabhupada. So yeah, his potency is remarkable, and it's still going on. He's carrying on the tradition, a very wonderful, glorious tradition of Vaishnava, pure Vaishnava's teaching. So the Prabhupada's potency also is there because he didn't change anything. He simply repeated what he heard from his guru. That's the secret of success. In university training today, we find that if you can come up with a new theory, then that's very good. Especially in history. I majored in history at the University of California, Berkeley. If you can come up with a new theory of history, then you probably get an A high grade. But that's not our system. Our system is realizing what's already been given. We don't come up with anything new. That carries the potency. So I've been listening to lectures recently. Prabhupada's talking a lot about the miseries of material life. We tend to struggle very hard to become very comfortable in this material world. We may have a nice car, a nice house, nice this, nice that, nice friends, nice family. But actually, the reality is we have to give everything up, taken away, sometimes forcefully. So that's the reality of our life in the material world. If we get too comfortable, then we miss the point. We tend to forget that everything is eventually taken away, and we have to start again. And how do we start again? We take another body. And anyone who takes a body in the material world, it doesn't matter what species, human species, insect species, plant species, you go through the same cycle. There's birth, there's growth, there's staying for some time, there's dwindling, and there's death. There's six, actually. Birth, growth, producing byproduct, producing more byproduct. Stay for some time, dwindling, and death. So that's true of all of us, all the species, doesn't matter what it is. So our real business here in the material world is to prepare ourselves so we don't have to take another birth. That's our real business. We should never forget that. Prabhupada really, in his lectures, he really drove that home. I remember the first lecture he gave in Nairobi when he came. Actually, the lectures are labeled Nairobi, but maybe they're Mombasa, I don't know. Did he lecture here in Mombasa? Yeah.
Yes, yes. I've got 5-6 lectures there.
Really?
9 September, 21 to 15 September.
Okay, so he did lecture.
18 September.
Are they labeled in the database, Mombasa lectures?
Yeah, it's there.
Okay. I remember he gave I think it was an early lecture in Nairobi. It was quite heavy. Remember that lecture? Yeah. And then afterwards, it wasn't so heavy. But anyway, initially he was speaking about the same thing, becoming too comfortable in material life. Yeah. Prabhupada could be very heavy. I remember in the early days in India, he preached so heavily to the Indian people to take up Krishna consciousness